All. It's 6 o'clock. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we call the roll, please?
Augustinelli?
Here.
Barshaf?
Here.
Dool?
Here.
McCumber? Here. Schmuckel?
Here.
McManus? Here. Corn?
Here, all present and accounted for. First item on our agenda is public comment. If there's any member of the public who would care to address the board at this point in time on any matter, just come to the microphone and be so kind as to give us your name and address. Okay. There'll be a public hearing later on where you can speak to the other issue. Yep. We will close public comment, come back to the board for review and approval of the agenda and statement of conflicts of interest. Do we have any conflicts?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Sure we don't have any conflicts?
I don't,
No.
Oh, I do, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Yes, I have a conflict.
oh, you do?
I do, never mind. I'm sorry, I do have a conflict. I'm not supporting it.
Number 7.
Number 7. I will not be voting on it. Sorry.
Can she sit here?
Huh?
Can she sit here during the discussion?
I'll go
Yeah.
sit in the audience.
She can sit, but do not speak.
What if I want a public comment?
No?
What if I want to comment on it? I have to go up to the podium then, right?
You can't.
I can't?
You really think it's necessary? Right.
We just want to make sure the rules are down.
Yes. In the meantime, we do have a motion and support
Support.
to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'm not awake. Next item is consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with in one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. If minutes, December 12th, 2023, regular meeting, recommend approval. Bills, general fund, $188,056.82, recommend approval. MTT update, receive and file. Veterans Exemptions Report, receive and file. Building Department 2023 Statement of Operations and Annual Report, receive and file. Zoning Department 2023 Activities, receive and file.
Is there any member of the board who would like to remove anything from the consent calendar for discussion? Any member of the public who would want to remove something? Or staff? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent calendar as listed. Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the consent calendar. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Dool?
Yes.
Barshaf?
Yes.
Augustinelli?
Yes.
McCumber? Yes. Schmuckel?
Yes.
Manus, yes. Corn?
Yes. Next item is items removed from the consent calendar. We have none. Correspondence. And we have a couple pieces of correspondence. The Sheriff's Department's statistics for the month, the quarter, and the year.
That goes under his report though, doesn't it? Under the sheriff's report?
Correct. We will move on to reports. First item is County Commissioner report.
Good evening, everyone. Brad Jewett, Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners, District 4.
Lauren Flynn, Grand Traverse County Commissioner, District 2.
Got a few things here tonight, even though it's the first of the year and we've had some late agendas, but I know recently in the media, there was some information in there about the pavilions not having enough money coming in because of their employee retention credit and everything. That money we were notified last week that money was coming in. I did not heard if it's been deposited into our account, but it was supposed to be deposited into our account at the beginning of this week. So we should be made whole, and hopefully everything's going good there. They do have a permanent director starting there January 16th, is it? 15th or 16th, but that's coming up here this next week, so.
I want to say really just a shout out to our finance director and the finance director of the pavilions and local legislatures, federal legislatures that really put the, got the bus rolling down the road to make sure that happened, so thank you.
Because it took about a year and a half to
It
get
did.
these funds and everything. Actually, I think it was just over a year and a half, so, and that's $6.8 million that we are getting in earned retention, employee retention credit funds, so. Another thing, some of you probably have heard in the news that there's some dispute with Beta that is still ongoing. That is about the appointments. They kind of want to tell us how to appoint to their board and everything, so we're working through that. But in the meantime, no bus services or anything have been affected, nor will they be affected. Northern Lakes Community Mental Health had voted last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess I don't remember because I'm not on that board, I think it was 2 weeks ago, to not use the Carver model anymore for their form of governance. So they're going to be moving beyond that. The airport had a ribbon cutting ceremony here, I think that was 2 weeks ago also, for their instrument landing system that they just got installed here this last year, and that's up and running, and that enables flights to land in weather like we're seeing today and everything. So they figure that'll save around 100 canceled flights per year, give or take, depending on the weather, but on average it'd be about 100. The pilot policy committee, or the policy committee met yesterday to discuss pilot. We are going to have some discussion tomorrow regarding the pilot and marijuana at a study session tomorrow. There is
Marijuana's not tomorrow.
or-
That's going to be opioid and marijuana later down the road.
I thought we'd go from together.
No, tomorrow we're going over the Blair Township project and the policy, pilot policy.
Okay, I thought we added marijuana to that. But anyway, okay, so tomorrow we're going to have a study session to talk about the pilot. There's a lot of new to that based on state legislation that was passed last year, and there's a lot to learn on it.
It's very complicated.
Yeah. We also will be seeing the facilities master plan, or an update on that, late February, early March. That's been going on for 9 months now or so, and hopefully we have some insight on direction we at the county need to go in regards to either remodeling some facilities, building new facilities, or whatever. We do have a number of our buildings that are aging and everything, so as that unfolds, we'll keep you updated on that. And then last week at the meeting there, we did elect a vice chair, which happens to be myself. That has to be elected every single year, so I am vice chair again, so.
We also did adopt the Parks and Rec's 5-year plan, so really excited for the hard work that went into that, and looking forward to Grand Traverse Parks being the best parks in the state, so there we go.
With that being said, I don't have any more.
I'm all set.
Okay. I am going to head to Blair Township.
We have one
but
question for you.
Are there any questions or comments?
Twin Lakes, they're being sued,
Yep.
and also Long Lake Township?
Yeah, Long Lake is dragged into that one, yep.
Okay. Any update on that, or?
I cannot report anything on that right now. So no, there's no update to give at this point.
We know right now what the Record Eagle reported as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do know we have the lawsuit. We've seen the lawsuit. We do have to respond to that.
That's what I mean, did you get, have you?
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
gotten
We
the
do have to,
lawsuit?
our legal counsel will be responding to that and everything. So, as with any litigation too, until we have a resolution, I won't be able to report too much on that. I'll just have to watch what we do report when we do.
Yes.
Can you tell us what the issue is?
Yeah, the Gallagher family, and
I don't remember the name of the
I don't remember the name of the other family either. But anyway, feels that when it was turned over into a park by the one judge there, that it should always be held in Grand Traverse County's possession. and stuff, so that's what they're suing over and everything. So to sum up, they had 125 line items or whatever in their lawsuit, but the core of it is they don't feel that Grand Traverse County could have another government entity own and operate that park.
We went against the deed restriction.
There's a disagreement over the language.
Yep.
Yep, so,
Yeah, so my quick question was, it went from a park to be a park, just different regulating body over it.
different governing body, yeah,
And that,
different government entity owns it.
I
yeah,
think the
so-
two sides don't see the language the same way as,
In the covenants, it says that they were giving the property to the county for use as a county park.
Right.
Mhm.
And not.
And the
Long
attorneys argue that they just meant that to be used as a park, but they assumed since it was a county, it would be a county park, but it doesn't necessarily.
Didn't say held by the county as used as a county park, it just said used as a county park.
Therein lies the rub.
Right, that's just the.
Okay,
There will be a lot. I will assure you, based on what we've seen from Long Lake, that they are putting resources into it. They are updating facilities, and they have a viable plan to make that a successful park. At the end of the day, it is still a park for the community. Visitors, the community as a whole, that has not changed. You know, the operations has changed in regards to who's operating it, but it will still be a park.
everyone in the county can still use it.
So the people that are filing this suit, are they the original, is it the family members of the people that gave that land
It is
to
fam-
Grand Traverse County?
That is correct. It is
So-
family members. It's not the people themselves, but it is family members of the people
Yeah.
that deeded it over at one point in
They
time.
probably have a fair idea about what was intended.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we got to have the discussion on that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yep, so, but, and like I said, as it goes through, we will report what we can report. But as you all know, a lot of times, a lot of that stuff happens in closed session, and we can't speak too loud until it's all done and said, so.
This occurred, roughly a year ago, the exchange of the land. And it seems like the process was months long.
It was,
2 years ago.
yeah, it was,
ago.
from the initiation to the time of completion was about 22 months.
Do you recall at any time, did any family members or parties to the suit show up at public comment and express opposition to it?
There was no public input whatsoever until the day we were taking the vote, and then the family
Okay.
did voice at that, 22 months into it, that they objected to it and everything, so.
Okay, but they did it at a time that it became public and they could put their 2 cents.
We did have public hearings on it, and nobody showed up,
Oh.
so we had plenty of opportunity for the public to have input.
That's what I was just wondering.
Yep, it's just that it did not happen until our very last meeting, when it was on our agenda to actually make a vote to complete the transaction,
Okay.
so.
There was a meeting, a public hearing in May where quite a few people showed up, but that
Yeah, it was-
May 2022.
It was, there was some family members, but there was no real opposition like we see in the lawsuit and stuff. Their public comment was more along the lines of making sure we read the deed, making sure we did this, and, just making sure we did everything correctly, so.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope. You're good to go, thank you.
Well, with that
Thank you.
being said, both of our contact information is on the county website. Email us, call us, do whatever. And I am going to head out to Blair Township tonight, though, but we will see you at the end of the month for the whole meeting if we have one.
All right.
So, thanks,
Drive
everyone.
safe.
Be safe out there.
Yep.
Next item is the sheriff's report.
Good evening, Roy Raska, the Sheriff Department. I think December with the holidays, I think it was probably the busiest month we've had since the summer. Garfield Township, the guys wrote 69 tickets in the township, handled 15 personal injury accidents, 60 property damage accidents, 14 drunk driving arrests, and then 58 criminal arrests. And then the stats for the year. In Garfield Township alone, 989 tickets were written, 117 property damage injury accidents, and then 822 just regular damage accidents, and then 114 drunk driving arrests were made in the township. Currently, we're still down one position in the township, and that's Deputy Peck. And hopefully, within the next month or two, we'll have that position filled with a different officer. Currently, we have 3 deputies that are in training. 2 of them are moving through the training pretty quickly, because one had 2 years of experience down in the Ludington area, and the other one had 6 years in a bigger city down in Arizona. And then we have our first candidate that's out of the academy that we sponsored and paid for, and he's doing really well also, so that's really good. And then next month, we have one more officer that's coming in from Detroit. He has 4 years of experience in Detroit, so we're hoping that he fits in well, and he's really excited to get up here with his fiance, and he's found housing, and so hopefully he'll be a month and a half, 2 months of training and be a plug and play. So hopefully within the next month and a half, 2 months, we'll have Amanda's spot filled in the township. Over the last month, the guys did a couple different programs with the VFW, some Christmas things that they wanted officers there for, and it turned out really well. And the guys have been busy doing fraud presentations and scam presentations. And then we had the Acme Township deputy come to Garfield and put on his presentation for violence in the workplace for a couple different businesses, so that's been going well. And we'll probably try to get a deputy to fill George's place in the drug court program, so hopefully we'll get that going the next couple weeks. Questions?
Any questions?
All in all, things are going well so far, right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
The next item is the GT Metro Fire Report.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Pat Parker, Metro Fire Chief. In your packets under 6C are the statistics for Garfield Township for the month of December. Total calls for December were 391, and of those, 346 were EMS incidents, and you can see the priorities 1, 2, and 3. And the third statistic is all of Metro, the same priorities, 1, 2, and 3. So just took a quick look at the end of the year, and Metro total ran about 6,071 calls, which is about 91 calls less than 22. And no real statistics or anything which kind of leads that. We didn't have some of the storms that usually a big windstorm will generate about 30 to 40 calls. So here in Garfield Township, for the whole year, we ran 4,176 calls, and of those, 3,699 were EMS calls. The pie charts are really just for December, which shows the calls for December. We're working on our annual report for 23, and we should have that done by your second February meeting if you have one. Other than that, we next week on January 16th, we're holding our Honors and Distinctions banquet, and happy to say that we have collected $4,550 from our community to put this event on. So we're excited about the support of our commercial and citizens for that. We did have a fiduciary meeting with our retirement plan, and we have assets of $5,994,799, and our plan did go up about 4.85%, which it was good because the previous year it was actually down 17.54. So that's looking good. And Our insurance renewals, we renewed again with the PAR plan. And nice thing is that our workers' comp, even though we have an increase in our payroll, our workers' comp stayed the same because we ended up with an experience mod of 0.9. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we received a 10% decrease in our workers' comp because of our safety. Now, next year, it might not be that good. We did have a few people off on workers' comp. We did sell a vehicle, our water supply truck, and that's a truck that's we have a pump on a pickup truck chassis that backs down into rivers and streams, and we really aren't using it, so the board allowed us to sell that to Blair Township at a discount. The nice part is they're going to use that and have a water supply truck on the west side, and we have another water supply truck in Fife Lake, so if we do need it, we can call either of them. We do have 3 new cadets in fire school. They're really excited and gung-ho, so they'll be out of school by the end of March, and then they're going to turn on, jump right back into EMT training. We did have a commercial fire at Williams. It was the little used car building out front, and it was just really contained to a storage room. I might have commented on that last month. We've been going on about a dozen CO alarms just that time of the year that furnaces are kicking in, and we're finding out that a lot of heat exchangers in these furnaces need replacing. So the CO alarms work, and just to remind everybody, they need to be replaced about every 5 to 7 years, and smoke alarms every 10 years. We are leaving InterGov, so right now, any developer that's planning on remodeling or looking for a new project they're going to have to come straight to us, and we've made it easy for them. It's on a website they can click on. It's a fillable form. They can send their plans in, and we just think we can do it quicker and faster, and we just weren't getting any headway with the county program. Other than that, Jen has just been busy out in the community, our public educator, and of course with Toys for Tots and delivering Santa and all that. It's been kind of exciting. Just lastly, just to fill you in a little bit on the chief's process, is the board had 44 people apply for the fire chief's position. The talent firm whittled that down to about 21. The board looked at that and got that down to 4. So this Thursday, the committee is going to be interviewing 4 candidates. One is internal, Tony Posey, my assistant chief. One is a fire chief from Illinois. One's a battalion chief from Fairfax County, Virginia, and one's from Savannah, Georgia. So they'll be here tomorrow. I'm sure they will enjoy, especially the people from the east and the south will enjoy this weather. Yeah. But hey, they might as well realize that the rivers of chocolate do freeze up here. So anyway, and then on the 23rd, the final candidates, at least it's got to be the final 2 candidates, it will be an open meeting interview at our board meeting on the 23rd, and we did move that from, it was supposed to be at Acme Township, and we did move it to East Bay Township, yeah, for that. So other than that, thank you for your support. It's been a great year, 23, and a lot of great things happening in 24. Any questions?
Counting the days?
I am not. No. There's 2 things I said I wasn't going to do. One is I was not going to have a countdown clock on my phone. I like my job. I enjoy putting the uniform on every day, and so it's really bittersweet to leave. And secondly, I said I was not going to say, forget it, let the new chief worry about that. Now, that one's been a little tougher for me to say, but no, things are good, and we're still progressing, and it is exciting. Yeah, after 40 years at the fire department, it's time to do something else. So, thank you all.
Thank you.
Next item is the Planning Department monthly report for January.
Good evening. The report's in your packet. I just want to make a few highlights. At its meeting last month, the Planning Commission approved 2 projects. One was a minor amendment to the Beta Traverse City Housing Commission Plan Unit Development. The amendment was basically adjusting some of the housing units in terms of the building configuration and proposed a inclusion of a new clubhouse. However, the number of units remains the same in terms of the multifamily. Also, they approved the Traverse Symphony Orchestra, which is going to be relocated, or is locating in the back portion of the Curling Center, which is the former Kmart there at Cherryland Center. So they've been approved for a community music school and rehearsal space. On the planning side, we received notice from the state of Michigan last month that it looks like our application for a development grant through the DNR Trust Fund is being recommended for funding and is going forward. So that is a grant for $300,000 to go to the Grand Traverse Commons Natural Area, and that will be to develop a 1.25-mile universally accessible trail loop beginning and ending at the Red Drive trailhead near the Greenspire School. So we'll be going through the process. It has to get approval by the legislature and sign off from the governor for that. So over the next few months, we'll be finalizing some of the design work needed for that project. Also, we continue to work towards the final revisions and elements of the draft master plan. That's going to be on the agenda for the next study session of the Planning Commission on January 24th. And we'll be talking with the Planning Commission tomorrow at their regular meeting about having an open house before that meeting on the 24th to maybe have, it's an idea that staff will be talking with them a couple hours before that meeting to give people an opportunity, as it's still a rough draft and we haven't really started the final formal review process and adoption process for the plan. So that's all I have. If there's any questions or comments.
I have a question. I know that we had talked about the housing at Beta, about it not, is it going forward now like it's supposed to?
Yeah, this was an important piece to get they have from my understanding, they have the funding. This was to get an adjustment to that in terms of meeting they're still doing kind of a phased approach, but this will at least get phase 1 of that housing started and potentially phase 2.
Okay, good. Thanks, Jen.
Yep.
Any other questions for John? All right. We'll move on to the Parks and Rec report.
Good evening, Sean Kehoe, Garfield Township Parks. Which this was what pretty much happens every time of year. Some park activity projects, there's a little bit of a downtime due to weather and holidays and so forth, which in some regards has been good. It's allowed us to do a little in-house activity here at the township in terms of putting Chuck's office back together after the Great Flood, and recently we're able to help out the clerk's office with some pre-election projects. So it's good to have that extra time to get some of those things done also. You have the report in front of you, so I'll let that speak for itself. There's just a couple minor, or a couple things to highlight on there that Commons, Derek and I were out there today actually and removed a few jumps that we had a complaint on that have been recently built that were crossing the hiking trail with mountain bike traffic and having some pretty large jumps into the retention basin there behind the surgery center. So those have been dismantled. Also, the other thing to highlight is that you probably heard there was some larcenies from vehicles out at Silver Lake. And that was last week, I believe, about a week ago or so. And we were contacted by the Sheriff's Department to review the video cameras and so forth that we have out there, and I think they're helpful. We weren't able to get a specific plate on that vehicle, but I think they've managed to do that through other means, as this guy decided to hit more than just Silver Lake Park. So I won't speak to that too much because it's obviously an ongoing investigation, but it sounds like they're making some headway there, and
And it sounds like our cameras have been helpful in that regard, so. Any questions on any of that?
Thank you.
So, thank you. And thanks to the
Thanks,
Sheriff
Sean.
Department for helping out on that larceny out there at Silver Lake.
Next is the clerk's report.
I have submitted my clerk's report in writing, if anybody has any questions. We've been really busy getting all of our absentee applications, getting them all processed, and just waiting for our ballots to get here. Thank you to Derek and Sean for all their help. We had to put in a new ballot box out front that's a little more secure. The state of Michigan required it. They paid for it, they delivered it. It's all installed. Again, thanks, Sean, for doing that. It's on camera, if anybody wants to know that. And, yeah, so tomorrow, we're meeting here with the Bureau of Elections to do a training on the new early voting.
Oh, nice.
Question. Since that box is on camera, do we need a sign that says you may be filmed or you may be on camera, or
No, they
is there
didn't- the Bureau of Elections just requires us to have it, and it does not say we did not say that we had to do that.
you don't have to notify?
It
Everybody
is
should know that
required by
everything's on
law
camera
that I
now.
have all my ballot boxes on camera.
There is no expectation to privacy in a public parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So, any questions?
Thank you.
Nice work.
All right. Next item is the supervisor's report. The Silver Lake crew, who are looking for the septic tank inspection program, are also looking for a wake boat ban on Silver Lake, which is quite complicated, but we're in a conversation with the Sheriff's Department. They feel we write the right ordinance and they will support it. So that's an ongoing conversation, and it is, it has to do with the depth of the water and the distance from shore and how do you define it, and so it's an interesting project.
Specifically wake boats, the
Yes.
ones that make the big waves for the borders.
Yeah,
The ones that erode everything around the
they
lake,
throw up huge waves on
Throws
shore
huge
as well.
waves. Yeah.
lots of erosion.
The Traverse Indoor Sports Coalition met again today. We've been getting together for a couple years, and we thought we had it in the bag because the Grand Traverse Resort was going to build a facility on their property out on Dock Road and 31. And then they fired the GM. So we're kind of back to square one there and still looking to build more indoor facilities. John and I met with the Brownfield rep a little while ago to talk about the new housing TIF. It's a tax increment financing plan that precludes the use of a payment in lieu of taxes, because you can have a portion of the infrastructure reimbursed from a tax capture. So there is no taxes until you do something, and when you do something, you can use that to pay for the new project and make it affordable for workforce housing, theoretically. We got a few hoops to jump through, but it's pretty promising.
Good.
That's, at the end of the day, you end up, I think, doing it in a much more efficient manner. But that's yet to be seen. I've had a number of people contact me about trash pickup, and whether, if they would, I guess the most common one was that they would support redoing the preferred vendor. So we may just run that if there are no objections.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Yep. Maybe we can do that on a little more frequent basis. So that's your supervisor's report. Are there any questions?
Can we use that, this new brownfield TIF, not a PILT,
Yeah.
thing, for other things other than low-income housing, or only low-income housing?
Only for below, I mean, you
Below
can do it for,
market.
you can do it for what they call missing middle housing, people who are in the 80 to 120% range, who are typically the workers that can't afford to buy a house or an apartment. So it's for that, but not for general.
It's all housing, though. You can't use it for infrastructure or something else. That pot.
There is, no, not that pot, no, there is another brownfield. The
Yeah.
pot is, there is no pot. I mean,
Yeah, it's
when you
after.
create the project, it creates the pot. So it's kind of a different thing, but yeah, it could be,
Commercial?
I mean, we obviously did some of that at Cherryland.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Good.
we're open to that. I think it's
Yeah,
reasonable.
great.
We end up with a much better property and eliminate the contamination, and
Right, exactly.
it's all good.
Yeah, that's great.
Any other questions? All right, we will move on to unfinished business. And item A is a public hearing for consideration of Resolution 2024-01-TA to create Ridgeview Court Resurfacing Special Assessment District. And we have the resolution prepared. We have the petition. We had one member who signed the petition who was not qualified, but we are still, we were at 59.55%, we're still at 55.17% of the foot frontage, so it does not affect the eligibility. And if there are any questions from the board?
They weren't qualified due to the fact they weren't owners of that property?
No. They just weren't qualified.
Pardon?
They just weren't qualified.
Oh, okay. For reasons other than ownership?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions from the board? And we will open the public hearing. If you would like to come to the microphone, and if you'd be so kind just to give us your name and address.
Yes, I'm Mary Berry, 1537 Ridgeview Court. I am the one who circulated the petition. And I did so because it's obvious that the road does need attention. And I was concerned not only for safety, but to also for, property values. I mean, it's really an ugly-looking road and does nothing for the looks of the neighborhood. Now, when I brought this petition forward, I was not aware of the cost the first time I circulated the petition. I did get some of the regulations and what the cost would be the second time I circulated the second part of the petition to get the second signatures. But I'm not exactly sure I explained it well enough to my neighbors, and I'm sure that they may have some questions about the cost that's going to be incurred for this. Not only that, but the time limits for them to be able to pay for it. I did reassure Mrs. Boisford, who is the one that initially signed, but then because she has a declining mental state, I didn't feel, and she didn't feel, and her daughter didn't feel that she was really qualified to be able to sign it because she really didn't understand the wording. and I get it, so I did call the assessing office and ask them if they would reconsider her signature. She answered the door, and she seemed very coherent to me, but her daughter did voice concerns. She was nice enough to sign the petition, but I don't think she understood it. So I think there are still some questions about cost, even with those who have signed. I tried to explain, exactly what the cost would be, because you did give me those figures. And there is options of 20-year, 10-year, 15-year. We didn't come to an agreement, all of us, as to which one of those we had decided we wanted. I did talk with Denise Schmuckel, who lives across the street from me, that if we wanted to pay this particular cost, which I believe is $5,700, 5707.42 would be the initial cost for us per parcel. And we do have the option to be able to pay that up front. Is that true? Or they have the option to pick a plan, the 10, 15, 20-year plan. Is that correct?
There is the option to pay at the time of the first billing, which could be a year later.
Okay.
So you essentially have 1 year interest-free, and then when that first payment is due, you can pay the entire $5,700
Okay.
and be done.
Okay. And others?
And others can finance for terms, and I will give you that to the treasurer.
Well, from what I understand, we've always done it where the assessment's all the same. So as a group, the residents decided what year worked best for them. We've never had it where some did 5 years, some did 20 year. Now, I don't know if that's even allowed to pick, for people to pick, but we've never done that. We've always, I'd have to look into that. But I think it's the whole assessment is for a certain term for everybody.
Yep.
Is that how you understand it, Chuck? I mean, that's how we've always done it, but
That's the way we've always done it, but I didn't know if that was statutory or
I'm not
just,
sure either. I'd have to look into that. We could ask Amy, the assessor, too. I didn't know that was going to be a question tonight, sorry, or I would have looked into
Well,
it.
she did mention to me that everybody would have to be on board with one.
Okay, yeah, that's how I would understand it and think it should be two, but.
Right, and that is a question I can't really answer because I didn't get a consensus from the people that I talked to, and I don't know when we need to do that or when we would be able to do that.
I have a question. So even if they chose a 20-year plan for everybody, they could still pay it off early. You don't have
Right.
to go the whole 20 years.
Correct.
You could pay
Yes,
it all
I
off
did- I
early.
did know that.
So people understand that it is an option to do it, to
No
extend it
prepayment
or to pay
penalty.
it off early.
That is
Okay,
true.
but if we need to make a consensus as to what that plan is going to be, do we need to do that tonight, or is there another time we need to let you know? Because each person needs to decide, correct? And we all need to be on the same,
it sounds as if that is the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, especially if that's what the assessor told you, that's probably accurate. So as a group, you'll want to decide which plan works best for you. But as Leanie said, you can pay it off early, and that does save interest.
And when do we need to
really.
let you know that?
I think, is this that tonight, Chuck, that they need to pick their term?
Because there are
I
some
think-
that aren't
I think
here.
there will be another public hearing where we will present the role,
Okay.
and we should have that decision by that time.
Yeah, that was my question Laney asked, was can they pay early? I know from like my point of view with stuff, you might have somebody that's like, I can't afford a 10-year payment, so they'd rather have a 20. You know, when I buy my vehicles and equipment for my business, I always get the longest term possible, and I pay double payments, triple payments. And as you knock that principal down, the interest goes down too because you're dropping the principal. So
Exactly, and we were concerned
I think in
about that.
fairness, my personal would be, go with the longer term and just pay it earlier, because if you do have a year of crap and things, your furnace breaks and stuff like that, you're not forced to make this $1,100-$1,200 payment when you can do
Exactly.
500 and something if you wanted,
Jeff, I got a question.
Yes.
So, if they did that scenario, would Chloe refigure the interest? So, say if somebody came in and they decided to do the 20-year, but they came into some money and decided to put $1,000 down, and pay that on the principal, would you be refiguring the interest on
That's-
it?
Yep.
Okay.
The program refigures the interest, so you save money if you
Okay.
pay it early. Yeah,
Okay.
just like a car loan.
So,
It's nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
then it works out either way.
And that's good for them to have that option, too. So would I have to go back to each person and ask them and give you a consensus of what we all decide?
That's a good question. I don't know how this normally works. Does Amy usually figure that out with them, or?
We typically present this to the residents in one form or the other. And we didn't offer the 20 years before, so it was a question of up to 10, and most people just went 10. So it wasn't a big difference. But I think it would behoove you to, or someone to speak to each of the township residents and determine where they want to go. Whether they want to do the long-term to benefit those who can't afford that payment and then pay it off early if they can.
We usually have a spokesperson or a committee that, when we do these, that talks to us and.
Correct. That's
So-
Mary.
That's, that's how you feel comfortable speaking for them, then I would say.
Yes, I would be
Ask.
willing to get with each one that signed the petition. There are concerns of those who didn't sign it. And I know she has a question.
Yeah, she can come to the microphone if
You
she.
have to go to the mic.
Thank you for heading this
But thank
up.
you very much, and I will do that.
There you go.
Right or not?
Hi, I'm Pat Captain, 1594 Ridgeview Court. I have a question as to how do we pay this? I mean, is it to the township, through taxes? I'm not sure how it gets paid.
Our treasurer will send you a additional bill with your yearly taxes.
Okay,
That would be
Alrighty.
for the amount that was due.
okay.
Chuck, is
And
it sent in the winter or summer, or both?
I think it's typically winter.
It's in the summer for
Is it?
these type of assessments. You'll get it, same time you get your tax bill, around July 1st. And then it's a completely separate bill. And then you will pay it, it's due September 1st instead of September 14th. But they're about the same time due. And it's the installment you'll be paying. You can pay extra, you can pay it off, you can pay part of it. So the breakdown on here you'll get a bill for each of these installment payments depending on what plan you pick.
Okay,
And then you can write the check for whatever amount you would like.
all righty. Okay, and another question I had was, are we able to have like a small meeting here with all the residents and have everybody come in and we can all have a small meeting here?
Absolutely.
So that we can decide what we want to do as a group instead of Mary running up and down the street and this one's our home and that one's our home. I mean, it was just if you want to have a say-so in what we're going to pay and how we're going to pay it and how long we're going to pay it for, come to this meeting.
Right.
Or tell someone, I just think that's an easier way, that's all.
Yeah, we've done that in the past. We'd be happy to do it again.
Okay. And another question I had was, how did we come up with the 570742 per household.
We took the estimate that the county engineer prepared,
Uh-huh.
and the county road commission will pay all the soft costs, the design, the bidding of the project, the oversight of the project, and that is their cover. The township has committed to cover 25% of the total cost, so we cover 25%. The remainder is divided 17 ways. And that's where that 7,700 came from.
Okay.
57, excuse me.
And I remember, at one point when we had called, that it was, that the residents would be paying 50% of the cost. Is that true?
It is not 50%, no.
Oh, okay. Alrighty, because I had, questions about the weight limit that's on our road. And the fact that the big plow truck is heavier than our weight limit. So with the new material that's going to be going down, is it going to be like a tar and chip, or is it going to be asphalt, or?
I think it's a regrind, using the regrind as a base and an asphalt overlay, is what I understand what I read in here.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
asphalt over the grind.
They call it a crush and shape, so they take the old road and turn it into gravel to create the base, and then they put a brand-new layer of asphalt on top of that.
Over that.
Okay, so it's going to be asphalt.
It's what they did here on Veterans, isn't it?
No, Veterans was a overlay.
Just an overlay?
That was just an overlay on veterans.
They've done it a few places in Traverse City. You'll see that big Elmer's machine creating a lot of dust. And it
yeah.
grinds it up and lays it right back down.
Right. Okay, I was just concerned because I think our road is tar and chip. And, well, we know that didn't hold up. That was going away when I moved here 35 years ago, so, and it's only gone downhill since then.
So Pat, I have one other question I'm going to ask Chloe for you, because it's kind of in reference to both you and Mary's, is whatever plan we pick, that's the minimum they have to pay, right? So if we get with the 20-year plan, I think it was $561, they cannot pay less than that. They
They get
have,
charged interest, yep.
they have to pay that
Yeah,
minimum.
that would be the minimum installment each year.
Okay. So I guess my theory is if you go with a 10-year plan and somebody can't afford it, they're it's not in their favor. So that's back to my.
Right,
always went
I agree
longer.
with you I agree with the 20 years. I mean, and if you can pay it off ahead, great.
And especially with her program being able to redo your schedule, that works out great.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make public comment?
I'm Scott Stipe, 1529 Ridgeview Court. So, this is neat, by the way. This is really neat to see this in action. I've never been to a board meeting, so thank you for everything you guys do. So we've been in the house just a couple of years. Mary came to us and said the road really needed some help. She'd been there a little longer than us, and it does need help. But first of all, I guess I'm a little bit, where are we at in this process? Is this, I signed something and I kind of thought it was just to see what the next step was. I assume this is already in motion. Is there any, not that I want to, I'm still trying to figure out the numbers actually, but is there a stopping of this, or is this done deal?
No, what we're doing tonight is to establish a special assessment district.
Okay.
And order the presentation of a roll. The roll will be how much we are actually going to charge each resident, and that is a tentative figure. This is all based on an estimate prepared by the Road Commission's engineer. It is possible that it could go over this, and I think there's a limit of 10%. So it is potentially, when the bidding is done, if the bids come in 5% over, we're still good to go. up until everything is done and the bid is there and they start the work, it is possible for the residents to change their mind. If enough people change their mind that it falls below 50%,
Okay,
then it's off.
okay. And so there's an official final vote, or we're already in process and now we would have to, somebody would have to stop this
There'll
process?
be another public hearing where you can speak and, if you wish, register your decision to,
Take myself off the list that I signed, in a sense.
yes.
And lower the percentage,
Yep.
which is a very exact percentage you had, by the way. So really dumb question. I know you guys have had these questions many times. Some of these houses have been here. I think our house was built in the 80s. I was talking to this nice lady whose house was built in, I think, 76. So I'm sure you guys get these questions a lot, but taxes have been paid for a long time. I mean, taxes go to the fire department and the police, and in a sense, you think they go for the roads. And so, I guess the question is, it's being plowed, it's not a private road. Why isn't this just paid for by the county? I mean, I don't mean.
It's a long story, but I can try to give you the Reader's Digest version. So years ago, the State Highway Fund,
Okay.
which is funded by gasoline taxes
Okay.
and registration fees, that's what pays for roads. And instead of using a percentage of the gasoline sold, they used a figure like 29 cents. So every gallon of gas that was sold, 29 cents went into the fund.
Okay.
So over the decades, gasoline prices went higher and cars became more fuel efficient. So there was less gas being sold
Sure.
for a lot more money. And that gas is what they make asphalt with. And
Okay.
that caused inflation, so they had to pay more for road workers, more for trucks and machines.
Okay.
So essentially, they were running into the world in the red every year for decades. And it got worse and worse and worse, and they've turned it around now where there's sufficient money to improve the overall level, but we're still a long ways from doing subdivisions.
So that's the thing, subdivision. I mean, that, in a sense, when you guys have redone these main roads, South Airport or whatever, there was never meetings, or nobody assessed money to people that might have lived on those roads because they're so highly trafficked. That's in the budget, in a sense. Is that why that's not?
So federal funds come
Okay.
down, and those can be spent on principal roads. So
Okay. I'm not on a
South
principal road.
Airport Road, you can
Okay.
spend federal funds.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I guess that makes sense. In talking with Mary a little bit, this is a road that's going to be paved, but there's also some other structures that's going to be involved. The water situation, is that what happens, or is that usually what happens when you go into an older road and you want to?
There's municipal water right at the end of your street.
Okay,
And if the road is torn up, it is really simple for us to put water lines in.
okay.
We don't have to rip up a.
So that's not a lot of extra money in what we were paying for.
No, and
to do
you don't
that.
have to pay for that until you hook up to the water.
Okay, all right, so that's not in our assessment right now. I mean, that's not part of this. Okay, I didn't know how big of a deal that was. And we're not required to hook up to city water? I mean, we have a well.
Yeah, if your well goes out and you look at the price of a new well and you
Yes,
think, hey,
okay.
I'm just gonna hook up to
Okay,
city water.
okay. And is that do they have to dig up to do that? Is that a big expense later, or is that a pretty simple process to hook
It's
up?
a relative, they have to put a trench across your front yard
Okay,
to run from the water line to your home.
okay. So it's not a big, if anybody needed to, it's not like they're digging up and we're spending a lot of money to hook to the water.
It would be your expense, yes.
Do you have any idea what that is? I know it's a tough guess, but.
Yeah, it depends on the distance from your
Okay.
water line to your house. And I would guess it is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000-8,000.
Wow, okay, to hook up. So if your well goes bad, then you got to decide what you
Yeah,
want to do.
because you want to have that water line 6 feet below the ground so it
Okay.
doesn't freeze in the
That
winter.
makes sense.
But much better than putting in a new well,
Yes.
That would make
price-wise.
sense. We lived out Chum's Corner, and I had city water out there. And then we come into much closer to town, and I have a well, which I was really surprised, to be honest with you.
Where?
That was different. So when it comes down to the money, we're gonna be able to have another meeting and we can do this 20-year thing as a thing, maybe? I mean, I think that, because it sounds like, no, you can never get anybody, you can't get 100% of anybody to agree on anything. So there's no way 100% of the people on our road are gonna wanna do this.
Well, if the people who show up, if the majority
Yeah,
give me a
makes sense.
timeline, then that's.
So then the other group has to, they have to pay for it, right? They get the bill, I mean, and they can go delinquent or something. And I'm just trying to figure out how it is for people that really don't want it.
Well, people who really don't want it, again, can remove their support. So
Okay.
you do have to.
No, I understand.
Consider everybody.
But if there's 70% of the people that want it, the other 30% have to pay.
Right.
Okay, and it's a bill that we're gonna get once,
I was just gonna say too, if you don't pay your installment, it gets added to your winter tax bill.
okay,
That's the consequence of
Okay.
that, so
okay.
that's just some more information for you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm more for it, especially when this 20-year thing made so much sense. And if we want to pay it earlier, that really breaks it down for us. And I guess I don't want to make it too hard on the people that don't want it. You know what I mean? And so they have the ability to not have a huge bill or have to pay it off in 3 years, and then they're not talking to us or whatever. So we don't want that.
Yeah.
And so it gives them an option to me, for them,
Neighborly
if they
subs
don't
want
want it.
neighborly.
But so last question for the most part that I can think of is, so in a sense, you have a nicer road, you have nicer house value, right?
Yep.
Well, that's good and bad, because are we gonna get a double whammy here where we have a bill and now our taxes are gonna go up because our house is now worth, and does that make any sense?
No, it kind of makes
Is
sense.
it gonna be
but
assessed by somebody and now all of a sudden we're gonna skyrocket?
the way the law is set up right now, your house can only go up by the amount of inflation, your taxable amount.
Okay,
So while the house might be worth $20,000 more, like this year, the taxable increase was 3.2%. So that's all that the house went up for taxes.
okay,
The addition of a new road is not considered a home improvement.
okay.
If you put a new kitchen in.
Yeah, right,
that-
right.
that
And I
would-
kinda
that
looked
can
at it
raise
the
your
same. I didn't
taxes.
think about it. Okay, I kinda looked at it the
Yep.
same. So, another meeting then, is that what you're thinking? Like, we wanna maybe make an announcement and we could meet here? Is that what, if that's okay? And then they can actually come and then we can would we get more specific numbers then? Or this is just a hearing for us to figure out the year thing? That's what we need to do. That's
Yeah,
what we need to do.
and
Okay,
And if it's the road commission rep is at a meeting in Acme tonight, which is much more cantankerous. So, yeah, I told him he'd be okay. But if we were to have a private meeting where we could all talk this out, I could have him here as well.
okay,
Acme contributes 0 to a special assessment district. So they pay
okay,
much more than Garfield residents.
okay.
Chuck, I have a question on that. Can I attend that meeting, even though I'm a board member, but I'm paying?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just discussion.
Okay, all right.
You've asked some really good questions, by the way. Your
Well,
list
this is
was
really neat.
very
This is really
well
neat. This
put
is neat.
together.
I mean, you talked to people and they're like, well, you pay taxes, why isn't it just paid for, but, I mean, I've seen budgets. I mean, I'm sure that's just how it goes. And our road is like a tenth of a mile too, like in a sense, like it's not a really large road either. So I was thinking, and then I saw the $172,000 and I was like, where does some of that come from? But it sounds like there's a lot of planning, a lot to be done, and I think it's needed. I'm for it. I just want to watch out for the group. If there's some groups on the road that don't want it, and I want to give them the ability to pay for it in some sort of responsible way so they're not really stuck with a huge bill, the first couple of years or anything like that, so.
As I said, if you were in any other township, it would cost more.
Okay.
So one question for you that would answer a question I think Scott asked is, the next meeting is a public hearing.
What we would
This.
what we'd have is an informal meeting before that.
Okay, but
To
the
discuss-
next public hearing, will we have the actual bids to do the road work? Those come in later?
Those come in later.
And so they would have a choice to shut the door on this project,
When those bids are received.
and then we know the true numbers.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
They said if it's,
10%?
it's possible it could be less. But
But did
lately,
you-
that doesn't seem to be
I have,
the trend.
can I have a question? Can I ask a question?
I have a question too.
No?
No.
Yes, Chris? Is there anyone else for public comment? Please do. Yes.
Yeah, Wes, you have to go up there.
And smile for the camera.
What I'm looking at, everybody is looking at numbers. And I'm thinking that back to the well water again. And we've got thousands of residents going in buildings, and the whole Franier Road is being totally built. And all the water flow goes towards the bay. So, there's got to be some contamination there. And I think that we should be more interested in the health of it too, instead of just money. But that's my idea.
I would let you know that you can take your water samples to the health department for testing
Yeah, I know, but
from
yeah.
wells. Still a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anyone else for public comment? Then we will close the public hearing and come back to the board for consideration of approval of the resolution.
I know there was some discussion a month or so ago about residents on the road who may be indigent or be in a very tough position to pay this. And there was some statute out there that allowed them the ability to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was mindful of those people who this created a hardship.
Correct.
So I just wanted to see if you could remember exactly what that,
I can.
yeah, because I
There
feel
is-
like,
There is a statute that allows someone who is qualified as a poverty case, and it's a fairly low income level. You have to open all your records up and show what you get. If you are below a threshold, then your special assessment, instead of being due with your summer taxes or near there, would not be due until you sell the house.
What is the threshold?
The threshold for poverty, they change it from year to year, and so I don't know right off. I believe, yeah. Huh?
As a family also, I think it's like an equation.
Yeah.
Size of your
Yep. So, yeah, you could probably Google it.
yeah.
But it's it is low. I mean, it is less than $20,000 a year.
In fact, I think the threshold now is 20,000.
It may be, yeah. I have not seen it lately, but we could have that information for you then at our informal meeting.
Chuck, in this resolution, if we make a motion for it, it's the whole package and all those options come with this resolution. We're not picking which level.
Correct.
Okay. So I'll make the motion that we approve resolution number 2024-1-T sub A, resolution to create Ridgeview Court Resurfacing Special Assessment District and order preparation of special assessment roll.
Support.
We have a motion and support to adopt the resolution as presented. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Dool,
Yes.
Barshaf,
Yes.
McCumber,
Yes.
Augustinelli,
Yes.
McManus, yes, Corn.
Yes. That's unanimous, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Thank you for seeing things our way.
Yep. Good questions, every one of you.
You can all come over and look at that.
Those poverty numbers, Chuck, if you,
Yeah.
the federal poverty level for individuals, 14,580, and then it goes up for family size, 19,720 for two, 24, roughly 25,000 for a family of three, and 30,000 for a family of four. I just thought it was important because there are people who struggle, and I know that some being forced to do this, it's nice to have an option.
Yeah, see if you can find the Michigan figures.
It's right here.
Is that Michigan?
See the top of it, what it says? I can't vote and I can't, but I can Google.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
See if Chuck is,
Yeah, it's 29, according to this.
That doesn't
Annual.
seem right, but-
she has one more
That's federal also.
question.
Yeah, this,
Possible.
Here's another.
Yeah.
Paperwork for that, I was requested to ask about getting paperwork for a couple of these families to fill out, and where did they go?
She's gonna have to go up. He wants you
She's
up
gotta
to the
go to the-
microphone.
Yeah, yeah,
He's going like this on his ears.
The paperwork for,
Poverty
these-
exemption?
Yes, the poverty exemption, where would we
You-
get
you
that?
go see Amy DeHaan.
Okay, good. I will do that.
You know
Because
who
there
she is.
are a couple of families that asked me if I would specifically find out how they would fill that out, where they would get it, who they would ask.
All right.
So that works, thank you.
Michigan.
Okay, so that concludes unfinished business, and we'll move on to new business. Item A is consideration of brand.
They can leave. They
Oh, yeah. Thank you all. You can
Thank
stay
you.
and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Be
Come on,
safe out
Zeb.
there.
It's really good at the
yeah,
end.
too much excitement for one night.
Is that when the wine comes? Thank you very, very much.
Yep,
very
thank you.
Item A, consideration of branding and website design services RFP. Mr. Syke.
Yes, as you recall, one of the ARPA projects that was discussed and approved by the board is to develop a new website and branding that goes with that. So I've prepared a request for proposals. You'll notice there's a timeline at the beginning of that we would issue it should you move, and these dates can adjust if you want to spend some more time on the RFP, but basically it'd be sent out to various vendors that provide website services. We also are looking to include some form of branding in that, and what that does is allow for, certainly our website is really important in terms of its outward facing to residents, to businesses, to developers, visitors to the area. And it allows, we want something that's updated, refreshed, simple for people to use. We don't see anything real elaborate, but it's important to have that out there, and also kind of conveys a certain image of the township out to people on the web. The branding is associated with that website in terms of colors, fonts, those types of things, but that's also something that can be applied for to other elements, things that we do, whether it's reports or documents, newsletter. It could be related to our signs that we do. So there's for our parks and so forth. So there's a fresh image, colors, and all that type of stuff. So this is really just to work with a vendor. I didn't really state it in here, but I would suggest maybe that there be some type of a committee that works with the vendor, because some of this is really, some of it's subjective. I mean, there is the functionality of it, but appearances and so forth are something that, would be helpful to kind of maybe have a group work with that vendor, but this is, I think it's mentioned, is this something that could be issued to solicit the proposals? Any of those proposals would then have to be presented back and at some point would have to be considered by the board to go forward with.
Can I speak now?
Yes, you are. You're
Can I
back in.
speak now? I think that, I like this a lot, and the committee that work with the vendors, it should be the ones that are actually doing it now. You know what I'm saying? People that are familiar with it more than maybe Chuck. I don't know if you're that familiar, I mean, the design, and if you put the input in, John, don't you do that most of it, or who does most of it?
No, we have others, like Laney does a lot for, there's.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Or-
Nope, Karen does, Karen
Okay.
and Kathleen.
So those are the people I think should be on this committee, because they're the ones that are doing it, and you, of course, because you're the supervisor to oversee the whole thing. So I think that would be a great idea, to have a committee to work with that vendor all the time, too, without them putting stuff on it, without you knowing it, and
Thank you.
I can just speak.
Do you want board input besides you, or are you just gonna bring it back? I'm thinking you ought to have at least somebody else who can buy in.
One victim.
One victim.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you feel like you want to do it yourself, but,
Well,
when you get into those things, you could end up with some pretty interesting stuff that,
I can log onto the website, I can do things, but I don't do it very often. That is a staff issue. I would think at some point it's what we want to reflect on, maybe and get another opinion on, is the actual look
Right.
of the website, whether it is something.
real
that-
contemporary,
Yeah,
all
does it make you want to read? Does it make you want to look at
Right.
it? Or
Is it
one where you-
user-friendly?
Is
Or
it
do- it
boring?
looks so
Yeah.
busy that you just like,
Yeah.
"Ugh."
Is it boring, or,
Yep.
yeah.
So,
Well, and do we keep our little parks and our logo that we have now, or do we, I mean, this is kind of suggesting we might want to make some changes on that
branding, yes.
and brand it, and so that's, we've had it a long time, that
Yep.
little.
Chloe?
I was just gonna say, this kind of stuff really excites me.
Well, then you're on it.
There's no volunteers. I think this
you
is cool stuff, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, if someone else really
She's
wants
very
to-
handy, too. She's,
And she's here.
she's just down the hall.
Here.
And she's here, so
Yeah.
if you had a
And
quick
she's here.
question, she's right.
I think Chloe should be on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Chloe should be on the
I just
committee.
want to say, I think it's cool and exciting, but, Chris just said he does too, so
I think
I'd
that
be
if,
fine
you-
if
if
Chris is
Chris
hard to
really
get
wants
here.
to.
to be honest with you, I think you're here, you can elicit
Right.
feedback, you're using it. I think you would be somebody that could come and say, hey, be mindful of this. Interfaceability, access for an employee area for policies and stuff like that.
Yep.
How does it work mobily? What other services are we going to put on there? We're going to accept credit card payments. Well, we need to make sure that that works with whatever that vendor is. So there's a lot of things that you have to think about as you pick a company. and be
Could
able to
we
have-
both? I don't know, could Chris and I both be on the committee with, well, are you going to be on it, Chuck, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm-
Chuck, you and the two gals
And then-
Laney mentioned, Karen and, what's her name?
Kathleen.
Kathleen?
And I would definitely say John too. He's got experience with creating new websites, right, through other,
I've done it before.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That's
I mean, I
five.
could be
That's
helping
five.
Never had a good
facilitate.
one, though.
That's good.
I think that's good.
You have 5 of them right there.
Yeah.
So,
That'll be
So-
fine.
So just to understand, we are approving or not approving that we are going to be talking to people about branding and website design. We're not hiring somebody right now.
Correct. We're going to do a
Approving the
request for proposals,
Right.
and then they will show us their stuff.
We want the look
right, right.
now.
So can I make a motion?
Why, yes, you can.
You sure I can talk?
I know, I've seen you do it.
I make a motion that the request for proposals for branding and website design service BE be approved. Jesus, I can't talk.
We have a motion and support by Mr. Barsha, is that right? Mm-hmm. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
Everybody probably got an email from a vendor saying that if, he provides the services, so he would, get with them if you have questions. So when I have that at the county, I always like to say, okay, we approved the RFP process, you can get a copy of the RFP here, and you can submit a proposal. So what is this, how does somebody get the RFP?
They can, you can have them contact me via email. I'm going to be doing this all through email, and we'll be issuing them out. There's a certain, we'll issue them out, and then we give based on that calendar, an opportunity for them to respond. The deadline for submissions are February 22nd.
Okay.
So we will have also a time period in there for questions. They can email me, and I will then issue all those respondents who have contacted me via email back with any answers to any of the questions regarding the proposal.
Perfect. I'll steer them your way.
That's all right. That's item A. Item B, discussion of township manager proposal. So send everybody a copy of the article from the November Township Focus magazine. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it from email, but I was in a very fortunate position when I came here in 2008 because the economy had stopped. The real estate bubble had burst, and there was no development, no building. It was very, very slow, which meant I had zero knowledge of how to run a township. But I was able to learn. It was still like drinking from a hose, but I was able to learn. And, 15 years later, there's a million and one things that, I would like to pass on to the next person who sits in my chair. The person who sat in the chair before me didn't want to pass on anything. So it was a different time, it was a different place. Going forward, I think would be a strong benefit to having a professional manager. There's superintendents are allowed for charter townships, but it's not necessary. You can hire a manager or a superintendent. The superintendent has more strings attached. So it gives you a little less flexibility. If you hire a manager, you can design their job to do what the board wants them to do. And that person answers to the board. They're not the boss of the treasurer or the supervisor or the clerk. They are working for the board. And the idea that the person who gets one more vote than anybody else is the new treasurer, clerk, trustee, supervisor. At some point, you're going to get somebody who's unqualified and possibly has intentions that are not what you want from, it happens. So I'm not asking anybody to make a decision tonight, but I would, look at this. We'll try to get some information on townships that do have managers that we can share with you.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you saying you could have somebody has the wrong intentions that gets into the office.
Wait, can I finish?
Okay.
So that is my reason for bringing this up tonight. And as I said, I'm not asking to make a decision, but, I think at some point in the near future, we're going to get together with the Personnel Committee because we have to start the search for a new building official. Carl is bound and determined that he's not going to take the test again. So when his certificate expires in
September.
October?
September.
September, end of September. So,
What a loss.
yeah. And he'll be hard to replace, but I think if we get started on that, so we'll get together with the Personnel Committee, and we can also start gathering information. Chris is good at that, on how townships do things. Now, any questions?
I guess the question I have, let's just say we do this, okay? And Joe Blow, citizen, becomes supervisor.
Yep.
He walks in, can he fire this manager?
No, he works for the town board.
Okay, that's the question I had. Thank you.
You want us all to comment
Please.
as we go through?
I didn't comment, I just had a question, so.
Comment before
I will in
do?
a minute, I got a few more things.
You're gonna
going through
wait for me?
No, I got a few more things going through my mind.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see us looking at this. We've gone from, we were a $3 million budget, I think, when you came in. We're over $5 million now. We have 20,000 people here. We are a vibrant, moving township. And the continuity of having a manager, I think, would be a good thing for this township. So that's my.
Mr. Dool?
Pros and cons. The article was confusing in a way, because they were flipping between superintendent and manager, and then at one point I read that they would be in control of the deputy clerks and the deputy treasurer's people.
No, I don't think so.
And I'm thinking, well, do we set this thing? So I guess my comment would be, you know what you do as supervisor, and what would you put on the plate of the manager? So I guess from you, I'd like to see a list, if possible, of this is what Chuck Horn does, and this is what I think the manager should do. And then we could look at that, because we all kind of have an idea of what you do, but I know there's probably more out there than what we know about. And I think the best list comes from you,
Yeah, I can do that.
because they're kind of
What you would
taking
pick.
over some of your roles.
Exactly.
And
I
then
ask-
you know what
yeah.
happens in the building, so what else within the building could they oversee? Like I read in here too, that they overseen the ordinance enforcement, stuff like that, and I'm like, well, we don't need that. We have 2 ordinance enforcement officers that work with Mike Green. So there was things in here that I was like, what? And like
Right.
our parks and that stuff, our park
So I
systems.
oversee Mike Green.
Yeah, right, I know that, because he's an employee, but
Right.
like our park systems, it talked about them working and overseeing that, but yet this township has a lot of really good subcommittees, and our parks and our different subcommittees do a very good job of going through stuff and kicking stuff around, and then it's presented to this board. So some of those things in here, I was like, I don't know, but then I just kept thinking back to, you know best, because you've been here long enough to know what would you put on a manager's plate.
Yeah.
I couldn't make that list, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you can.
Yeah, I think I can sit down and figure
Does
out.
that sound right? I mean,
Things that I do in a normal month, list them out, and then
right.
I can make my recommendations, and the board can do otherwise.
So you would make the
It's-
recommendations?
Let's
And then
move
they,
on.
No,
one more thing.
it's on
They-
that question, though.
They talked about, like, the manager can make the elected positions part-time, which I think our elected officials like this being full-time, like Chloe and Laney and you coming in technically Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days, and still coming in on Friday and coming in on the weekends when you have elections going on. I didn't like that aspect of diminishing the supervisor to part-time, and it said it could open doors for more people and that stuff, but I think this township is so growing and so in the eyes of the community that I think our elected positions should be full-time other than trustees.
And that's one of the things we got to look at. I mean, there are communities that, I would say the majority of them, the supervisor is a part-time position, not, board only, like the trustees, but the roles that he retains would be maybe like chief legal officer, because if you're going to sue somebody, you sue the chairman of the board. There are a number of meetings that I go to every month, obviously. Some of those I think would be the manager's realm, the others would be the supervisor's realm. And I think once we do that, then we can probably figure out how we want to design both positions. But it's,
But let's just clarify that the manager cannot do anything. The manager cannot make anybody half-time or part-time or anything without the approval of the board.
Yeah,
The
no, I'm aware
board
of that.
has to, it's the board's decision for all of that.
And they have no statutory
So, no.
regulations.
Right.
It's what the board tells them they do.
they would attend the board
It's
meetings,
a
but they don't
position.
vote.
They're an employee position.
Right.
Under the control of the board,
Right.
not the supervisor, nobody. The board controls that position. And then you'd have to decide, does the supervisor still control all the other employees, or is that under the manager? Like Green,
That would be a
all that,
decision to
you know.
make, yeah. Then, and I will let you know what I recommend.
Okay.
Chloe?
So I definitely see the benefit in a township manager. There's a lot of benefits to it for sure. I think it could help our board accomplish things and add another level of professionalism to the township. That, would be continuous throughout elections. But I just want to make sure that we do it very carefully and intentionally. And I know in here it said they hired a consulting firm. I don't know if we want to do that, but to help develop the job description maybe, or, and to help find the candidate. I just want to make sure if we do it, that it's set up properly. It's going to be really important that the roles be what's best for our township. And I'm still a little uncomfortable with making the supervisor part-time. So I guess I need to still work through that. It's just, to me, the supervisor is such an important job and role, and they're voted in by the people, and they're still going to be setting the agenda. And I feel like they do need to be very involved in the day-to-day at the township. So that's one thing I got to figure out, the benefit to putting the supervisor down to part-time, I guess, because I don't know if we could justify two full-time, a manager and a supervisor. But maybe a part-time manager at first and see how it goes. I'm not sure, but is there any interest in going through a consulting firm or coming? I don't know. How would we develop this job description in a way that we know will work, I guess? Aside from, I know you know what you do every day, but then when it actually comes down to practically performing the job, I guess if we could get input from other townships on what works and just more data, I think, before we make the decision would make me feel more comfortable with it. But I do see the benefits. I like the idea of having a professional who we can hire, who knows, maybe human resource stuff and legal stuff, and has a background that we currently don't, someone off the street might not have. So I definitely see the benefit of hiring somebody, but I also see the supervisor position as being extremely through it, I guess is what I'm saying too.
No, this is a board decision, so I want to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody on the board is involved, gets to say their piece, and we all kind of reach some kind of a common
Agreement, yeah.
decision.
And we would all hire this person, I'm assuming, right? Not just the employee committee?
Correct.
Okay. Because that was another thing. I would want the board to be able to interview and hire.
This is the one position
That the whole board
the
would
board would definitely want to be involved in.
Yeah. Okay. I think
Because they're
that's it for
basically
me.
working for the board, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Barshoff?
So mine's more of a transparency part to start. Starting probably 5 years ago, I had a goal or a vision to sit in your chair. So, and serve the community in just a different way than I did with the sheriff department for 28 years, because I'm ready to end that career and start a new one. And as I sat over there as a lieutenant for 5 years and saw the work that the board did, that's what sparked my interest in being part of that. So that's where I started the journey to develop myself in the role that I have currently, overseeing a $7 million budget, 50-some employees. So I personally developed myself for your job someday. And then, the job could change, and what I was going after could change, and I understand that life changes, and I'm okay with that. But I feel like this process might get to a point where it's a conflict for me, because I have desire to sit where you are, and I may even have a desire to be the manager of the township. So I feel at some point I may have to recuse myself, but I can tell you that I've always put the township first and at the top of the priority list and doing what's best for the township, not what's best for me. So, for the personnel committee, you talk about research. She wants data. I love putting together information for people to make a educated decision. So I feel like I can be part of that effort to do that, but there may be some time that the board decides, here's what we're going to do. Then, I may seek to, retire from the sheriff department and put my name in the hat for the manager of Garfield Township.
I put my hat in first.
And also in the research that I've done is the continuity of government's huge. To have somebody that's a common person that can work through different leaders who get elected, that's important. The elected official positions are not part-time, full-time. They're whatever it takes to get the job done for the taxpayer. So if we say to the manager, you're going to do all these things, and it makes it so, Chuck Cornell needs to work 10 hours because you're able to take care of that part and the manager can do whatever else, that's what we have to sort out and figure out what's the best.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I'm in support of going down this road because you feel it's a worthy cause, and I will do my best to put as much information in front of the board to make a decision. So.
Yeah, I think when we look at all the information, all the data, it may turn out to be a whole different decision.
Yeah, the research.
I have an
that
open mind.
And I do too. Roughly 50% of the charter townships in the state have managers and supervisors. But there's a lower percentage of townships overall that I found in research, like 5 to 10 of all townships have managers and supervisors. So, but when you get into the charter, there seems to be more of both. And I don't know what the reason is behind that.
They're usually bigger.
Yeah, maybe you typically don't become charter unless you're, 15,000 people, 20,000 people, thus there's more workload.
Usually it's because you're urban. You're next to a city who's eating you up.
Trying to annex you.
Yeah.
Tax base.
Yeah.
I'll bring you right up.
So thank you for bringing up the discussion on this.
Welcome. Last but not least,
Well, I think the continuity is good also, to have somebody here that if we all nobody got reelected, there would be somebody here that could help the new officials along. There's a timeline involved, though, so people running for office, putting their name in the hat, need to know what is expected of them at that time. So this is something that I'm not sure we have time to do at this time before people start putting their name in. They need to know.
people can withdraw their name if the job's not what they want. So we want to have this in place before the end of application.
Yes, we do.
What is that date?
March 30, end of March, is it? March
I think it
29th
is.
or
I don't have the
something?
exact date. You're not going to put me on the spot. I don't have the exact date. I will
I
look
know,
it up and
it's-
get back to you.
I was
It's end
thinking
of
it was the
March.
end of March, beginning
Yeah.
of April, but.
I think it is.
yeah. So we have a couple months, 2.5 months essentially, to get there. Anything else?
I think it's a good idea, but I think we need to get it in place before people start applying for positions.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You know, how long do we have? We don't wanna do this hastily and, I think it's a great idea. A township manager is needed because you're run thin, all the time. And I like the idea of what you do and what you could pass on to that manager. That'd be great information. Like Steve said, we don't know exactly what you do, except flood your office, but no.
Lady did that while I was gone.
And then the other thing too is, I guess the question I would have is boards, like you would still as a supervisor be like on the Metro board and the Brownfield, or would that manager do that?
So that is up to the board.
Okay, all right, that's the question.
That would be, and I have some boards that I think the elected officials should be on, and some boards that the
Okay,
professional should be on.
okay, okay. Well, and Laney is like, that was my thing. Are we gonna do this before elections? But let's just say that I wanted to run for your job, okay? And I put my name in to run for your job. I can't put my name in for trustee, right?
You can put your name in for both.
I could.
Just have to pull
You
one.
have to pull one of them by the last day.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, but then when all right, so I'm gonna pull my name as trustee.
Yeah.
So I want supervisor, and then I find out in July that supervisor position is only gonna be a part-time position.
Oh, no, we got to make a decision long before July. Like I said, I think we have to make that decision before the end of March.
Okay.
We have to have.
That's the question I had.
Officially, the township is going one way or the other.
Okay,
We don't have to hire somebody before the end of March, but I think we have to have a job description. We should lay down the things that we need to do. We gotta have a job description for the supervisor and the manager. We gotta be thinking about, okay, what's the pay scale gonna be on it? Because people who are
For
wanting
both
to run,
positions,
they are gonna wanna know where that is. So there are some things. So can we lay out a timeline of, we need these things? John's really good at these kinds of charts and stuff. Lay it out. Okay, by this date, we have to have this. By this date, we have to have this. And by this date, we have to have that. And then the board can make a decision.
Yeah.
but, and the other comment I had was, I have to agree with Chloe. If we could maybe start this at a part-time position for the manager, but I really think we really need to look into it real closely and how we're gonna do it.
Yeah. That's,
At the end of March is the deadline. It's only 5
I think
meetings
it's April
between.
23rd.
Oh, March, April 23rd, so
It's
we're.
April 23rd when you have to have your deadline.
6 meetings roughly before that, but I starred this when I read this today, and it says, timing and careful consideration are essential. Townships most commonly consider this change in the year or two preceding a board election.
right.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah,
that
read
as
too.
well. I have something. I don't know that we could hire a professional person part-time. I think we need, in order to get someone in here that's professional, it's gonna have to be a full-time position with full wages and benefits. A quality person in here.
And then when we get all this information, we can have more questions and comments, right?
I mean, we can move it along. It's just, you're gonna be a busy little beaver making your list and everything.
John's going to make the list.
You don't have any vacations scheduled, do you?
Hello. There's my midwinter trip.
I just
Yes.
have a question about, because we set the salary for this year for the supervisor, and I always thought that the salary went through the term. You can't lower it, or does it just go through the year? Because we've set,
It goes through the term
so we can't lower it unless
unless
the supervisor agrees?
Correct.
So the new supervisor would have to agree to
No.
having it?
They won't be elected yet
They're
before
in
we make the
25.
decision.
So when,
Even though it's in November? Okay.
yeah, so by April 23rd, is that right? If we have a firm decision, the board has passed a resolution to hire a manager and to set the pay scale and the duties of the supervisor here instead of here, then those people who are considering running would have to consider that fact at that point.
Okay, so it doesn't have to do with the budget
Because
we
you
set?
could put your name in right now.
Mhm.
But it's the cutoff date that is the key. You have to tell them before that cutoff date. That
So that's,
there's-
what'd you say, April what?
I'm pretty sure it's
23rd.
April 23rd. But are you sure that, because I thought when people put their nominations in, they knew right then what they were running for.
Right.
I thought, that's my understanding, but I could be wrong.
Yep.
I would have to look back at it and look at what it actually says.
All right.
Well, yeah, you'll need to check into it, but
You're in the Personnel Committee, right?
yeah, I would think that it would be, you put your name in for trustee, let's say, and if it changes, and all of a sudden, you have to pay $25 to come to a meeting, I can change it. I mean, I can pull my name out.
Well, you could, but generally, when you apply for a position, you know what the salary is and what you're applying for.
Right.
Yeah, but
The
elected,
nominating, but I think it is when you put your petition in, but I need to just check on it. I need to get the clarification on it.
I mean, people could file their petition 2 weeks ago. They could file their petition, I don't know when the start date is, but could be before we
Usually
finish our budget.
January.
You wouldn't know.
It's usually January.
We had a county commissioner who filed 2 years ahead of time. Well, she
Yeah, we
didn't, she
got
wasn't an actual county
I
commissioner.
do know the county is having the same kind of conversation. We have to have the salary set prior to the, I believe, we wanted to have it set prior, but I think statute is by the filing deadline, so that if you are filing, that you are aware of your salary, so
So it is the deadline.
they can't switch it at October and you've been running and,
Right. So it is at the filing deadline, is that
I
what you
believe it's the
it
filing
is?
deadline, yeah. 'Cause I
Okay.
know that we were gonna set it for the filing deadline, but we're like gonna do like March.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good discussion.
Okay.
Good discussion.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, I like a good discussion.
Absolutely.
We could have differences of opinion, we can get data, we can get information, and
Absolutely.
Sounds like you've thought about it for a while.
I have thought about it for a while.
But it's nice when we get, like we have everything in front of us, then with you getting stuff and all the other stuff, then we can all, I'm just making sure that's not my mom, sorry. She's 93, I gotta keep an eye on her.
All right.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is there anything that the board would like the Personnel Committee to look at specifically? So when we get information, you're hoping to see that, like, for instance, percentages of townships that have manager and supervisor? Is there anything specific that we can,
I got my notes here that we have, I think we want examples of how other communities have done the job divisions. So when you start shifting it around, who carries what tasks?
Okay.
That's one of the things I think we want to look for.
Isn't something one of the things that maybe I would be interested in, like a supervisor and a deputy supervisor, and a supervisor and a manager? I'd like to see the comparison of those two.
So does the supervisor hire their own deputy supervisor? Because I hire my own deputy.
That's correct.
At that point.
Right.
The
But no,
board would have no
those are
say
the
in-
questions I want,
Right.
I would like answered.
Well, the board would set their salary, but the supervisor would be able to pick their.
Right,
Deputy.
but I'm just
Right.
talking about the job descriptions, not who's picking who. I'm talking about the job descriptions of a manager and a job description of the deputy supervisor.
I'm a little confused. What's Chris referring to with the Personnel Committee? I thought you were the one that's gonna be doing this list of stuff.
Well, I'll do the list of what I believe are the way I think things should be divided. Chris is looking for information on how many townships have one type or the other, and
Pros
the
and
size of the
cons,
townships.
why they did it?
And then any information we can get from them on, like, pay.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else that would be relevant to this
Okay.
discussion. So,
Okay.
And there was a lot of stuff in that article about that too, which was nice, which was very good.
Yeah, we want to bring back more data,
Right.
make a better decision.
Perfect.
Well, as long as we all know that the deputy clerk and deputy treasurer will be run by the clerk and the treasurer.
Right,
They serve
They
at
must.
the pleasure of the
right.
of the
Clerk and
official.
treasurer.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but I just want to see what, I want to compare the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the deputy supervisor position is like the deputy clerk and the deputy treasurer. They can do nothing at all. We've had deputies before who never came in the building. They were just the spare. So if the official couldn't show up, they would come in. Of course, when the official refused to work, then they quit. But that's another
But with
story.
every change of a supervisor, the deputy will change.
Right, I know that, I understand that, totally,
you know.
but I just want to see the comparison. Chris asked what we wanted to see, that's what I want to see.
Could change, doesn't mean it will change.
Right,
You
absolutely.
could, like if Chloe doesn't come back and somebody else runs for her position, they could choose to keep her deputy, same with Laney.
Right.
But it's up to them completely.
Right, it's up to them, I understand that, but I want to see both.
And I
just wanna see
understand,
both.
I agree with Denise, I understand that thought.
Yeah. Make a motion, we adjourn?
Nope.
Not yet.
Nope,
No? What?
3 more.
First, we are going to talk about public comment.
Public got a comment?
Any public comment?
There is none.
All right, we'll close public comment. Is there any other business to come before the board today? Steve?
Things.
So my brother Dan called me, who I found out is friends with John Syke. He brought up an issue, and he's going through a bunch of businesses. He works in Travers Field Industrial Park.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of businesses coming on board, and he's looking for help, and I think Frito-Lay might come in on this too, and some other businesses down there. The foul odor from the city's marijuana facility there is causing a monster issue, and Dan's been doing some research to try to figure out how to stop it, and he's gonna get the state mandated regulations, and he thinks it's zero emissions. You're not supposed to be able to smell it. But McCarnell Culligan is gonna be on it. They're in Garfield Township.
Right across the street.
And he's gonna go to Life Story, because they're downwind of it, so they're
Yeah.
probably smelling it. And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
gonna be getting with Joe and different things.
Frito-Lay has mentioned it's very bad.
And
It is. You
they're
drive by there in
taking-
Hammond, it's like-
So Frito-Lay told my brother that they were taking deliveries of chips to stores, and when they opened up the back,
You got the smell.
the people are thinking that the driver's having a heck of a good time on his route to deliver the chips. So it's not going good, but he's looking to see if there's any support Garfield can give him in a letter format or something to get the city's attention, because he said he's getting the runaround with the Sydney ordinance enforcement officers and everybody down there. So when him and I talked, I said, contact the big guy on the end who might be able to tell you different things that can be done. And that's when I found out he knew John Syke. So I never knew that. But yeah, he said it's real bad. Real bad. Like their factory stinks of marijuana when there's guys in there trying to run CNC machines and everything.
It's bad.
So
Yeah.
the agreement, that was a 50-year agreement that we signed with the city to allow them to use that property, also says that it will be governed by their zoning and ordinances.
So there's not much you can do then, right?
If there is a issue with some sort of state or federally mandated odor,
Dan was gonna look into it. My brother Dan, he thought that there was something he had read and he was gonna get a copy that said there has to be zero emissions of
Yeah.
odor
Want to deal
from the state regulatory body.
there we go. So we can
So that
go,
would-
we could go to the state.
That would trump anything the city says, but he said he's getting a runaround from their ordinance officers. He's not sure. Their board's gonna listen to him. Their planning commission's like blowing it off.
Yeah.
They
I've been-
just think it's nothing, but,
I've been getting that for 15 years.
ooh. But now we've got some of our businesses in our township that are getting affected from it. So I was thinking, is there a way, maybe John could guide a little bit and figure out if there's a way to put the hammer down on them a little bit?
We can look into that. There's the state regulatory agency for the marijuana facilities that issues the licenses from the state of Michigan for these. So we can see if there's any, recourse or way to, make a complaint or anything like that. It seems to me that would be the ones, because they're the ones that ultimately issue the licenses
Right.
for
It'd
these.
It'd have to be the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have we got no authority.
I know. But we sometimes do letters of support and stuff like that. I didn't know if we could, once we look into this, if we could say, yeah, we're against our freshwater McConnell-Culligan people shipping water that smells like
Marijuana.
Holy
marijuana.
ganja.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and chips that have a flavor of that.
Yeah, they don't like that.
Anyways, I just thought I'd bring that up. That's all I got.
Okay. Anything else?
So
Marcia.
the county health department is offering free radon kits because it's Radon Awareness Month.
Yes, yes?
And I think you still have to pay, they're giving you a kit for free, but you got to pay for the service to get it tested, I believe. Very valuable. I know in our sub-area states, you see all the homes that have the pipes coming up under the eaves and up from the basement.
Yep.
So it's kind of a big problem. So I just wanted to mention that. And then also, I was in the mall a week or so ago and went to check on the progress of our restaurant that was going to go where Jonathan B. Pub is, and obviously nothing has changed. And I had heard rumor, and I can't remember who, that there may be changing their plans. So if that's true, and we recommended to the state that they get our quota license, and we did it based on a plan that they proposed, can we say to the state that we no longer support this because we don't know what the plan is now, until they come in front of us with a new proposal of what the plan is? If if in fact the rumor that I'm hearing, what I heard is true, can you hold that up until the new plan is disclosed, and then you can make a recommendation or even go to a different company?
I'm not exactly sure because we've never been through this particular process before, but I know what they are talking to the new owner of Sears, who has a lot of room there in that building that he's not using. And they are talking about they're doing the same concept in that building.
Rather than Jonathan B. Pub?
Yeah,
I have a
they
question.
got very
too.
frustrated with dealing with them all.
I blame him.
Oh. I have a question, because generally, if the license is issued to a location,
Correct, and they can apply to the state to move
move
that
it.
location.
but it has to come back to our board.
I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sure would be nice if you had some control if you learned that they're already changing directions. That you could say, hey, put the brakes on it, and then make them propose it again, because you gave it to them based on what they told you.
Then they're
You know,
probably
even though you may still agree that the Cheerleading Center may be a better place,
Yeah.
it still seems like you should have control over that, because now they have it, they can do whatever they want. And we made our
I
decision.
believe they're going to have to change the address
Which then comes back here.
on their
right?
application, which would come back here.
But yeah, then we don't know whether or not they had the problem with the mall, maybe after they got the license too, you know? It could have been
They
something
didn't
that
get a
they
license,
didn't.
they did
I
not
mean,
get a license yet, so.
that was something
yeah.
that they didn't foresee,
So-
what I'm saying. you
So is
know?
the license still at Garfield Township then?
The license is in pending status to
Okay.
High Tops.
Is it to the individual? Because people do sell, and that was a concern of ours with some of the proposals that came in, that we might issue them a license and they'll just sell it to somebody else.
Right.
How does that, we don't have control over that part,
No, but
so,
once it's issued, it's theirs.
So they, in
not a
order to get
location.
this, they need to have their site inspected by the state and approved. There's a process that they have
Before
to go
they
through
can-
before they actually get a
Before they
license.
actually get that
Right,
license.
so
Okay,
they they
Okay.
can't sell it because they don't have it yet.
yeah.
okay.
They have to show proof of operation then, basically, that they're gonna be up and
They
running.
gotta show that everything meets the
It's safe.
liquor law.
That's legit. Yeah,
The
okay.
state's qualifications.
Got it.
Okay.
All right.
Now, I have a motion to adjourn. Any objections? We are adjourned.
Question for you.